Ohio about the murders that are now linked to an Illinois surgeon. I talked to somebody on my News Nation show who knows all about this. Jennifer Coffendorfer is a retired FBI special agent, and she's been doing some Googling of her own and found some pretty interesting info. Here's our conversation. Last week, Jen, you joined me on the show and you found that there was an inordinate spike in Google searches for the couple's home, and now before the murders. And now you have found even more Google searches before the murders and after the murders. So what have you found that's new before the murders?
Right before the murders, Dr. Tepe, he was actually Google searched as well in an inordinate amount of time. In other words, everyone's flatlined, and then all of a sudden he spikes in November 30th. So that tells me that somebody was really looking into what he was doing.
What about the
Good morning, Miss Debbie Fox. How are you this morning? All right, so what we found out was right before the murders, there was a spike in Google from the surgeon Michael that was married to Monique. Her nickname was Mo. Right before and after the murders. So a lot of people were saying, well, he must have been stalking them. But I don't think he was. I think this was just a spur of the moment thing. And I believe probably in December when someone called the police saying someone was knocking on their door at 2:30 in the morning. I do believe it was this guy probably. I think he got the address wrong probably and was banging on the wrong door, or possibly it was Monique that was banging on the door. So that's very interesting because a lot of people in these chats are saying, well, he must have stalked her for 10 years or whatever, but the evidence ain't showing that. And I do believe the guy, it was just something triggered him. Maybe it was the reopening of a divorce. Now, they were talking about that this morning in a chat, uh, how the divorce was reopened. But how do you reopen a divorce? And did Monique owe him money? Very interesting. Now, a lot of people are also talking in chat that it was a professional hit. I don't know about that. Was this guy a surgeon and on the side he was a hitman? Just so happened to be married once to Monique, kind of knew her. Uh, they gave him the job. I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of far fetched. I imagine it probably had something to do with the reopening of the divorce, which seemed kind of fishy to me. How do you reopen a divorce? Now, did he reopen it or did she? Did he reopen it saying, hey, she's married now? This guy's got a lot of money. She can pay me the money she owes me. I don't know. We'll find out. But we do know this much. Right before the murders, there was a spike on the surgeon, vascular surgeon, Keepling or something like that, in his internet, Google, looking for these two people. So it's very possible that he did what area they were in, but he got the wrong address, and that means he might have been banging on the next door neighbor's door. Don't forget there was a police call made at the end of December from a neighbor saying someone's banging on their door real loud. So it might have been him. And if that's the case, and they know the day of the murders that he was using that car and everything, they might have him on the 19th in that area again. They'll have to go back and look at the footage, but it's very possible he got the wrong house. He went back home, and on December 30th, he did some more research or found out that he was at the wrong house, and then he goes back into December 30th and commits the murders. Well, it's possible. All right, so I wanted to touch base on that there was data showing that on the 30th, before that, they're not talking about anything that he was looking up that had anything to do with the case. Not until right before the murders, the surgeon Michael was looking or researching the two victims. So, yeah, I don't think he really was stalking them for 10 years. I don't think so. Something triggered him. It might have been the reopening of the divorce. All right, so I wanted to touch base on this. We'll be back with more as it unfolds, right? He had money. He didn't need money from what they're saying, the research I found. Uh, he was a vascular surgeon. He was making tons of money and pocketing it. Uh, he lived right off the shores of Lake Michigan there by Lincoln Park Zoo in a high rise on the top floor. The guy had money. You know, he definitely had money. And he'll probably use that for a lawyer. You're doing good today, Debbie. That's good. Let's listen to a little bit more here and see what we can find out.
After murder searches, what did you find has spiked after the murders?
So after the murders and immediately after the murders, Michael McKee spiked. Now, that makes some sense, right? People thought that could be him, but it continued to spike throughout. And when we look at Brian Koberger, it's just such a mirror image of his spike pattern. Of course, that was in a time frame 5 weeks before anyone ever knew his name. I just found it very interesting. Was Michael McKee worried that people were looking at him? And so he was checking social media and so on.
Well, that's very possible. We knew this much. No, we knew this much. It had to be someone they knew, whether it was family, one of the people that were at the party all the time, her ex-husband, Monique's ex-husband, this guy, Mr. Michael Akeef, I think his name is. Yeah, everyone was looking at him. We were looking at the brothers of Monique's sister and Dr. Spencer's sister, who both were married. They were having trouble, supposedly. I don't know. This guy is innocent until proven guilty. In the court of the law. Yo, RC. It's like he took a car to be crushed and forgot to get it out. Oh, RC, you're saying he took a car? It's like he took his car to be crushed and forgot to get out. I don't know. All you mean is his jaw. What the heck is wrong with my YouTube? Why is it's crackling and popping and everything? All about his face. Well, maybe. Who knows? You might be right. But I don't think he was stalking them for 10 years or whatever, like some of these people. He was stalking them. And I don't think so. I think this was a spur of the moment thing. Something triggered him. There's no evidence that for 10 years he was stalking them. It was just right before the murders. He started looking up Monique and Dr. Spencer. And right after to see if anyone was looking. I don't know. He's got a lot of money from what they're saying. He's got numerous properties and stuff like that. So the guy's going to be able to afford a great defense attorney, right? So we'll see. And we're not done looking because it could be mistaken identity. What they need is a weapon. That's really what they need. They get a weapon on them, or a box of shells, a box of 9mm shells in his apartment or condo or whatever it was. And then, yeah, but I don't know. There's something very fishy about this case. I agree with a lot of the other crime people saying that this whole thing seems fishy. It does. The family going on YouTube so fast when it was still an ongoing case, that was kind of suspicious. Or she said his ex-wife was hot, but I mean, this or that's no excuse. He should have been over it. I think he was over it. I think something triggered him. Because the FBI is saying that there was nothing, they weren't looking nothing up. Or he wasn't looking anything up. It was just right before the murders he started looking stuff up. And I think I think that's why we had reports of someone knocking on the doors late at night next to the Dr. Spencer and Monique's house. Is either it was Monique running from him, maybe Dr. Spencer went out with the guys one night or whatever, and he came over. We don't know if they were still, we don't know the whole details yet, but was it him knocking on the wrong doors because he didn't have the right address? He knew it was that area. Did he get the house mixed up? There's 4 houses that are the same color on that street. So did he go to the wrong house thinking the brown house, was Monique's and Spencer's house, and he was banging on that door? That would explain why someone called at 2:30 in the morning saying someone was banging on their door. And she called the police. That's very possible. These cases are always fishy. They are fishy, ain't they? You're right about that. These cases are always fishy. All right, let's listen to a little bit more of this. This was just released, I believe, today.
Because it wasn't you and me. None of us actually had any idea that Motepi had been married, a decade prior. And so we weren't Googling the name Dr. Michael McKee. Nobody in the true crime community really was doing that. So that is a fascinating find. Let me ask you this. The cops have put out the exact time that Mo and Motepi were murdered. And it's 3:52 a.m. How would they know the exact minute?
Well, I think that that's going to be based on the visual evidence from videotape that they have going in and coming out. So I think that's how they have the precise time. It could also be from his cell phone. Now, this is what I find interesting, though, is they would have geofenced this property right away. And I don't understand why they wouldn't have had his name part of that unless, Ashley, he had a burner phone. And if he did, that makes sense to me that they have a precise time.
Here's what I'm thinking. It could be also a fitness tracker on any of the three of them, because the spike in the blood pressure and the heart rate at the time of the killings for all of them would have been through the roof. And so if any of them was wearing an Oura ring or an Apple Watch or anything like that, that could have shown. Or maybe there's just video somewhere that registered gunshots or sounds of gunshots.
I imagine that's probably what it was the police camera that was across the street from the house. Probably picked up the gunshots, right? Within a couple minutes after the gunshots, this guy comes walking out of the alley. And that probably explains it. Or someone called the police saying, hey, we just heard a bunch of gunshots. And then the police look at the camera and see this guy walking away. Yeah, it very well could have been that easy. Very well. But here's the thing. Here we are with a burner phone. He might have been stalking him, but on a burner phone that we don't know about. You know, a burner phone. Yeah.
I have to leave it there because there's just so much information. Will you come back this week, Jen?
Yeah, absolutely, Ashley. Thanks for having me.
So to help make sense of all of this and to get a clearer read on what is happening on the ground in Ohio, I sat down with someone who knows this case, who knows this state, and who knows this system inside and out. Anjanette Levy is the host of Crime Fix on Law and Crime, and she also has her own YouTube channel under her name, Anjanette Levy. She's an Ohio native. And since this story broke, people who know this case and people in this community have been reaching out to Anjanette and sharing what they're hearing and what they're seeing as this case unfolds. What you're about to hear, I think, is a thoughtful and insightful conversation about two people who know the business of crime, crime fighting, and investigations and prosecutions. And I think that you're going to get a lot out of this. All of Anjanette's links are also in the description of this episode. And let me just tell you, Anjanette's got info from the inside. Like, she knows for a fact that this marriage was not good. And I'm going to get to why and all of the chatter around this and how Monique's parents may have been involved in helping her get away from her first husband, Dr. Michael McKee. But before I get to all of that, I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. I could not do this without you. You are my community, right? I also could not do this without my sponsors like Wild Grain. Have you had a chance to check out Wild Grain yet? Giving Wild Grain a try.
You know, I wasn't surprised that Michael McKee was actually arrested after some information I received late Friday night. I was surprised that it happened the day that it did. Because I was kind of hearing through the grapevine that it might take a while. So when it happened and I got a tip that it happened on Saturday, I wasn't shocked that it was him. I was shocked at the timing.
So pull on that thread. Pull on that thread a little about it might take a while. Like, how did you sort of know that they might be going in that direction?
I had just heard some rumblings, late Friday night that maybe there was some testing or, you know how these investigations unfold, especially these days. There's digital,
All right, very interesting. Debbie Fox says he was from the Bigfoot tribe. Well, he's over 6'1". It looks like he's got a 5 o'clock shadow already. So it's very possible at the time of the murders, he had a small beard or something and then shaved it off afterwards. It's possible to try and hide his, look. That's possible. Yeah. A lot of people that were in court this morning with him said he towered over everybody. So he was a pretty big dude, but is is that him walking down the alley? You know, I don't know. I would imagine so if it's him and they have the car. But here's my question to the authorities. Did that police camera pick up on the 19th? What did the police camera pick up on the 19th when the call was made that someone was banging on the neighbor's door real loud at 2:30 in the morning? Same color house as Monique and Spencer. Very interesting. Was it him or was it maybe Miss Monique that was running from him or whatever that late at night? We don't know. But if he had a burner phone and they were communicating and he had a burner phone and got rid of the phone, we'd have no idea except for whatever data was in the servers. No, the cell towers and stuff. So it's very interesting to find out. What we will find out, it's pretty early in the case. We'll have to wait. I imagine this will go to trial. He's got money. You know he's going to fight it. Not unless he decides just to plead guilty. But I don't know. He was a Neanderthal. Maybe. It's possible he had some Viking blood in him with that jawline. But then again, he might have had plastic surgery himself. We don't know. Well, there's one thing we do know. He had money. And supposedly, I don't know, I guess he had other property or she owed him money or something. I don't know. Maybe it was the snapping point of the divorce being reopened. You know, was that the tipping point? Him, who reopened the divorce? How do you reopen a divorce? It was over 10 years down the road. How do you reopen? I don't know if that's true or not, what they're saying. That's what I heard. Well, how do you even reopen a divorce? You know, I have no idea. Yeah, the only thing I could think of is like if there was property or something that was awarded to him or he got, but she didn't have them or whatever, and there was speculations within the divorce that the money would be paid to him in so much time, whatever. You know, she gets married again to a dentist who's making good money himself, and maybe I don't know. Well, I've never heard of divorces being reopened 10 years down the road, so I don't know if that's true. Yeah, I guess someone was talking about that in a chat earlier that they reopened the divorce recently. But how do you do that after 10 years or whatever? And I don't know who reopened it. Like I said, I didn't know you can reopen a divorce. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of crazy if you ask me, but it's possible. No, I don't know. We do know this much. We had someone that reported the gun, or the police camera picked up gunshots, and not soon after, this guy appeared. No, and then they probably watched the video back, the police camera, and seen him pull up, walk to the alleys or wherever, gunshots occur, and then he comes walking out and gets back in the same car he came in. But now they have evidence to see if he actually was there, because now they can look at the camera days before, weeks before, a month before, and see if that car is in that area, you know. So now they have something really to work with to really see, was he stalking them? Or was this just a spur of the moment thing? I think it was just a spur of the moment. Unless, like the FBI agent was saying, they had a burner phone that wasn't registered to them or anything. Then yeah, he could have been stalking them then for 10 years. You know, probably not. He probably had, you know, money. Money will make you forget about a lot of stuff, especially a beautiful woman. You know, so pretty interesting. For fraud and hidden assets. Well, maybe, but he wasn't the one that was frauding. I mean, they said that he won the divorce thing and was issued the house in Virginia or something like that. They had property, and so he won. Why would they reopen it? I don't know. Maybe she lied about something, or I don't know. You you can't just reopen. Debbie Fox says you can't just reopen because you change your mind for fraud or hidden assets. So what's the reason for them wanting to reopen the case? I don't know. Yeah, maybe she did have money. Maybe she lied or whatever. I know this much. He was rewarded the property they had or something. How, I don't know, but for some reason he got it. So maybe things weren't on the up and up. You know, maybe she was the one cheating or seeing someone else. And he proved it, and they rewarded him the property and stuff. I just looked it up. So what's I just looked it up. It has to be for specified things. You just can't reopen a divorce without put clause, without proper clause. I don't know. That's who reopens a divorce after 10 years. I don't know. No, I don't know. I sent it to you. All right, Deb. I'm going to probably end this video because there's more information that's coming out that I want to touch base on. But very, very, very suspicious. Maybe he was a serial killer. I don't know. We don't know. After 10 years, what the? Yeah, I know they were married for not even, I don't know, 7 months, and they got a divorce. 8 to 10 years go by, and then boom, this happens. You know, now channels, crime channels, people talking. It's very possible, but I don't, I don't know why. That would be kind of crazy. Maybe like Debbie was saying, she lied about info or something. He had money. She didn't. I don't know. Maybe she paid for everything while he was in school for being a surgeon. And now that he made it, maybe Monique wanted her money back or whatever. We don't know. But it says only for 4 months after not 10 years. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, ain't it, Debbie? That is pretty crazy. Do you want to listen to anything more of what this lady is saying? Let's listen to a little bit more.
Evidence. There are all kinds of things that they gather. And I wasn't getting something super concrete about whether it was ballistics, whether it was just digital, a combination of both. But there was something going on, and that maybe it was going to take some time. that it wasn't going to be immediate. And then, boom, I was literally driving home from the pharmacy, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that. So the name I was not surprised by, based on what I had, because earlier in the week I had heard, I had heard a lot of things. I've covered crime in Ohio for many years. I worked in local news, covering crime, mostly in politics, a great deal. So I know a lot of people.
It's pretty weird.
Had received quite a few phone calls and some other messages and things like that. So, people were reaching out, and I had heard different things all week long. This was not, the name was not surprising. The timing was surprising.
And what's, just a little inside baseball here for everybody who's watching or listening. We get stuff all the time. We see stuff all the time. Stuff crosses our desks, the rumblings, the rumors. And
All right, that's what Miss Debbie just sent me. And it says, yes, you can reopen a divorce case. And it's saying right there, yes, I could barely read it because the print is so small, Debbie. But it says, yes, you could reopen a divorce case of fraudulent. And it's saying it's difficult, too, to reopen a divorce case. Yeah, well, what's the thing? Did Monique's new husband, Dr. Spencer, say, oh no, we're going to reopen this thing and you should be getting this, you should be getting that? And it triggered the other doctor, Dr. Michael O'Keefe or whatever his name is, Keefe Lee. Says, okay, I'm going to read it. I'm going to put it on. I don't know if you guys can see it still, but I had to click over to the other tab so it appeared bigger so I could read it. It says you can sometimes reopen a finalized divorce, but it's difficult and requires specific, strong reasons like fraud, hidden assets, being forced to sign, material mistake, or significant changes. Oh, so maybe he reopened it. Maybe he reopened the divorce case or something. Or so one of them reopened the divorce case. And from what they're saying is someone lied on the assets or money they had. Very interesting. Maybe she lied. Because he didn't want the divorce. She did. She wanted out. He didn't want the divorce. So it just said right in there, if fraudulent signature or forced to. So it might have been that this was the snapping point for him. Did I get that right, Debbie? That explains things. Yeah, maybe she lied. Maybe she lied about stuff to get the divorce. Maybe she was seeing someone else at the time. Jilted ex. Yeah. Well, he didn't want the divorce. She did. because her and her family said, "Oh, he's crazy. He's this and that, this and that." But people around him, and people even in his beautiful condo and overlooking, uh, you know, the zoo and everything, in the Lake Michigan and everything. I don't know. I don't know. I know this much though. He was awarded stuff. Supposedly there was property or something in Virginia or something like that. They had a house and whatever, and he was appointed that in the divorce. He was jealous and passed, probably. Oh, you mean pissed? Yeah. She divorced him for the doctor. Yeah, that's probably what it was. He probably reopened. It's possible he reopened the divorce and saying, "Hey, she was cheating, and I want everything." He probably proved it. And it's very possible, maybe, or the other way around. I don't know. Very crazy, if you ask me, to reopen a divorce after 10 years. It's possible. Debbie said after 7 months in some states, but 10 years, maybe 4 years or something like that. But 10 years, I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty crazy, if you ask me.
And there's a bar that has to be reached before you broadcast that,
Right.
or before you pop that out on the podcasts or start talking about it publicly. And that can take a lot of time, and sometimes you can never release it because you just can't get an official confirmation, even though you've heard it through the grapevine, even though you've got one source that's pretty good. It's just tricky. And so that's why when you see things like web sleuths and all the online chatter, they're a good start. But they're
Right.
not the end. And obviously, these things are starting to come, into fruition. You worried about a gag order in this case?
It depends on the defense attorney. We don't know who his defense attorney is going to be yet when he gets to Columbus. Let's hope. This is a guy possibly of some means who could pay for an experienced defense attorney in Columbus, Ohio. And there are quite a few who are used to high profile cases who I don't believe would ask for a gag order in a case like this.
Why? Wait, stop
talk.
there. Any defense attorney, no matter how high profile you are, wants to keep things out of the press. Why do you think these guys wouldn't?
Well, I'm not saying they're going to be on the courthouse steps, leaking and granting press conferences and ranting. But there are some defense attorneys who maybe sometimes are more willing to share and more willing to cooperate with the press than others. And I've had that experience over the years. And then you come off something like Idaho where you get nothing. I mean, it's like shut it all down immediately, which I think is the wrong way to handle a high profile case. So
I don't know, man. When I was looking at the video of him walking in the alley, I mean, he looked tall, maybe 5'10", but they're saying he's like 6'1" taller. Are we seeing that in the video? Because somebody put the calculations in or something into AI. I was in one of these chats, and they were saying the guy was like 5'11" or something, 5'10", 5'11". But now his actual size is like 7'1" or taller. So this is, or not 7'1", 6'1". So is it the guy we're seeing? Or did he pay somebody? You're a doctor, you got tons of money. Do you risk doing it yourself, or do you pay a professional hitman? I don't know. I don't know, but we'll get to the bottom of it. It's still an ongoing case. It happened so soon. They have a guy, but that don't mean the case is over with. It's like the Delphi case. Just because they got one guy doesn't mean it's over with. You know, no, there's many players in that one.
So, and I can say that based on going back 20 years of covering high-profile
you
cases.
might be right, Debbie.
It's
might
not
be
the
right.
way to deal with it. I'm sure you've had the same experience. It's not the right way to deal with it.
My first big high-profile case was in Canada, and it was committed in the late 80s, early 90s. The committing of the crime and the prosecution, the investigation, all the rest. And the Canadians thought that the right idea was to completely shut all coverage down. Zero. Canadians were not allowed to know anything about the case at all. Americans, on the other hand, were allowed. So I worked in a newsroom where I had to ask my friends in the US to fax me newspaper headlines on the case. It was crazy. Even when it was in court, by the way.
Yeah.
Even when it was in court, we were banned across Canada from releasing any of the details in.
Wow, Canada's really got their justice system dialed in. In Canada, you're not allowed to know about nothing until the court date. And that's to actually protect both sides from any kind of contamination or any kind of corruption or anything. Wow, that's interesting. In America, we know about it the next day if it ain't on the news. This guy was killed. And you see the body, the blood. I mean, I don't know. But you know what? The guy was a suspect. And we said it here. She was married before. So you got to look at the ex-husband. You have to look at the stuff we found out about the family having troubles with money or the sisters or whatever. I do believe the person that called and made that police report from inside the house was Monique. Now, whether she was calling about her ex-husband or she was arguing with her new husband about money and her ex-husband and the divorce that was reopened. Maybe. It's all opening up like a can of tuna. Let me see what Debbie's saying. Was she still talking to this dude? We don't know because someone mentioned a hot phone. And if the doctor or the surgeon, Michael Keepelin, whatever his name was, had a hot phone, then it's possible they were communicating. As of now, we don't know. They'll have to look at their data on the phones. We know this much. Right before in December, he was looking up information about him on both of them in December. Right? It happened at December 30th, the murders. So, and got the wrong house. Maybe he just went there and got the wrong house, went back, did some more looking and found out, I was at the wrong house. It's a hop, skip, and a jump from Chicago to Ohio. You could drive that in a day. You could leave Chicago and be in Ohio, and drive back, within a day or two. Yeah. It's possible it was him. It's possible he knew once he heard there was a murder and it was her. He looks up on the internet to see what's going on. Being that they always look at, what do they look at? Family first, or husbands, or ex-husbands, ex-boyfriends. That's protocol 101 in investigation, right? You always start with family, friends, and exes. co-workers and everything. Was there? I don't know. I have no idea. Was he dating or talking to one of the co-workers? And they had no idea that she was married to. I don't know. It's possible. Maybe he was communicating with one of their friends still, or family or something. Maybe if the family knew him, maybe he was communicating with someone. No, they didn't have no kids together. And that's what I thought too. Maybe as one of the kids was his, and she owed child support or something. Maybe, I don't know, or he did. Maybe he owed child support, but they're not his kids. Both of them kids were from Dr. Spencer, they said. So that's off of the table. Very interesting. Yeah, that's weird. I could see if it was his kid and something was going down or whatever, and then, but these weren't his kids. Why would he do that, man? He had it made. You had it made, Michael. You had a penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. You had tons of money. You could have had a woman if just the money alone, you can get a beautiful woman. Yeah. Well, I still talk to my couple of my exes, but you know, I think RC's right. He was in my chat. I mean, yeah, she was beautiful, but it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Now if he did do this, he lost everything. He literally lost everything. He'll be spending the rest of his life in prison. Is it really worth it? I don't know. With that kind of money, I probably would have stayed out of it and let some professional handle it. I mean, what is wrong with these people? I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, pretty crazy. But the world is crazy. And she might have told a bunch of lies to get a divorce. What money? Thinking that she was going to get all this money. He was a vascular surgeon, yada yada. And the court said, no, no. She might have been a gold digger. Who knows? Some people are saying that. And some people are saying that in chats. Maybe she was promising she would come back to him. I don't know. There ain't no broad worth that. There ain't no vagina around this world worth that. 10 years ago, though, come on. I know, Debbie. I know. After 10 years, who reopens a divorce case that was finalized? That's fishy. Did they piss this doctor off, Dr. Michaels? Well, I don't know. Yeah, Dr. Spencer in his wedding video talking about Monique has put up with his crazy friends. Did his crazy friends piss him off? This was the retaliation. We don't know. We have no idea. It was a finalized divorce 10 years ago, 8 years ago, or whatever it was. Who knows? But he's innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. So It's still an open case in my eyes, and he might be the guy. We don't know. I don't understand why dude is even in her life after 10 years. He wasn't in her life. Well, as we know of now, they split. It was over, finalized. Now, whether they talked back and forth, I have no idea. We'll find out. That data will come out. Debbie says he was still talking, or she was still talking to him. Maybe. Hold on a minute, Deb. All right, Miss Debbie Fox is saying, nope, it wasn't over between them. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. That's why I walk away from relationships all the time if it goes sour. Right? You ain't gonna sucker me into. You're not gonna drive me crazy where I do something stupid and spend the rest of my life in prison. Just walk away. If you want me, then you come and see me. I ain't going halfway around. I'm not stalking some broad. It's over with. If I have to, I'll buy a lady of the night. But you ain't getting no more of me. And you just walk away from it. You know? There ain't nothing worth it, guys. You get a divorce, it's over. Walk away. If you get back together, you get back together. But other than that, dudes, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Walk away from the madness, unless there's kids involved. But don't let these people suck you down in the madness. Let me see what Debbie's saying. What's the old song, girl? Don't go away mad, just go away. Yeah. I think there's more to this case than what we're leading to believe. Here's a guy that they're married for not even 7 months, and they get a divorce. He don't want the divorce. She does. That's fishy. He's forced to get a divorce and sign paper. Maybe he was the one that was being abused or whatever. Maybe, we don't know. Maybe that's why he was appointed this stuff. It's fishy though. That's probably what happened. They were married for 7 months. She wants a divorce. She's thinking she's going to get all this stuff because they were married. And the court said, And it awarded him most of the stuff. So why would he even want to go back? I mean, you made out. I mean, that's probably why other people in other chats are saying she might have been a gold digger. She left a surgeon and right into the hands of a dentist, a doctor, Dr. Spencer, who was a teeth surgeon. Maybe, we don't know. That could cause a man to break. Well, when you're dealing in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in properties, Yeah, then I could see how a dude would, you know, are you kidding me? I've been married to this broad and been working and slaving and now I got to give her everything. I could see how it'd make a dude snap. Or even a woman. Maybe. Yeah, well, he might have had all this before they got married. They weren't married that long. So this is all stuff that he probably possessed before they got married and she thought she was going to get it. I don't know. Maybe. It's possible. Or maybe he was just a nut job and she wanted out. Whatever it was, she wanted a divorce, not him. So that's kind of fishy, but now we'll have to find out. I think I'm going to, Debbie, you want to watch any more of this? What are we at? We're going to try and make it to an hour. So let's watch a little more of this.
Court. That's why the Americans would sit in court and then go and report. It was nuts. I mean, so yeah, I got a long hit PTSD about gag orders going back to when I was a kid.
I am not a fan of gag orders at all. And I have a little bit of that PTSD going back to the first big case I covered back in 2005 to 2007 in Wisconsin. It drives me insane. Sealed documents drives me insane.
Yeah.
Closing court hearings drives me insane. So it very much gets my, I get very uptight about it.
There's a puritanical way of looking at this too, right? It's not just because, we got a dog in the fight. We're journalists and this is our lifeblood. It's really, for me anyway, it's about countries where I've been, where justice is hooded. I mean, I was in Iraq right before Saddam and they were throwing, black bags over people's heads and throwing them in a gulag and no one would ever see them again. And there'd never be a question about it and no one you could ask. And so that's the direct antithesis of what we do. But there's a slow slide into secret justice. And so I'm very, very mindful of it.
Yeah. And I think that when the public can see the process and they can see how it unfolds, especially when cameras are in there and they have access, they can log on and they can actually see.
Miss Debbie Fox says there's no way she was wait. Miss Debbie Fox says she was still talking to him. No way she wasn't. Maybe she was calling him for money. Who knows?
Proceedings on the internet these days. They don't have to traipse on down to the courthouse and hope to get a seat. You can log on and watch it. You don't have to go to the television even. You can watch it on your phone. You can see what's going on. It's transparency. And I think that's just better.
Makes us
for
better
everybody
citizens.
Involved. And it keeps people from, spinning into, conspiracy theories and going down rabbit holes and the whole 9 yards. I mean, you're always going to have a little bit of that no matter what.
Sure.
But I think you have to always err on the side of transparency.
Yeah, it makes us better citizens.
Yes, I agree. Full transparency, meaning open doors in our courthouses for cameras so all of the American citizens can see nobody pulled any punches, nobody, whole thing. I agree with this lady in this video. Full transparency. We didn't get to see that in a lot of these cases. And that's fishy, right? You guys know exactly what case I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention any names or anything, but you know exactly what case where this should have been transparent and the camera should have been allowed in and people should have been able to see the evidence, the photos, everything. Full transparency means the American people see everything that happened in that court and they explain everything. And there is no question of, well, he didn't get a fair trial. Well, when you let the people see exactly what happens within the courts and everything, there's no question then. But when you close everything off to the public, I can see them putting a gag order on it until court time. But once court time comes, you best open the doors and let the American people see of what's going on, because then you're going to have people always questioning. They didn't get a fair trial. This was left on. We didn't get to see this. We didn't get to see that. Debbie Fox is saying love triangle. It very well might have been a love triangle. I could tell you what, right now, we know the heart surgeon, the vascular surgeon, had money. And when you got that, why even bother? Why even bother with a woman like that? I don't know. You move on and get yourself a little hottie. And like RC said when he came into my channel, boy, she was smoking hot. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of other women out there that are smoking hot. And when you got millions of dollars and penthouses and property and everything, you're bound to find a smoking hot woman. Right? I'm just saying. Fact be the facts. No, I don't know. All right, that concludes this video. Now we will be back with more. It looks like the sun is trying to come out. It's supposed to be 44 today. Let me open up the door and let's see what kind of temps we got. Well, it ain't too bad. I mean, it's nippy. There's a pretty good wind. So it's not deathly cold, but I think they were saying 44 today. It don't feel like it, but it ain't deathly cold. Women can be beautiful on the outside and the devil inside. Well, that could be. It could. I don't know. We'll find out as it unravels. It's horrible what happened. We don't know. He might have been drove to it. They might have been trying to get him for more money. And he snapped. Debbie says, yeah, I know. I'm a woman. Yeah, but you're like a redhead Viking woman, so you go by different rules. Money is the root of all evil. It sure is. I would say so. I just can't believe, it had to be, I'm wondering if she now that she was married, had a husband that had money, she was going to reopen the thing and try and get money out of him. But this was an 8-10 year thing, and they reopened the divorce case trying to get more money. It might have made him snap, They might have been trying to get him for money. And he's like, you ain't getting my money, swally wankers. And took him out. Hey, you know what? We live in a country where these people make a living on suing people. They know nothing else but suing people to get money. In another country, they'd laugh at you. Go out and get an effing job. But of course, in other countries, they don't have laws like America. You know, they'd laugh at you if you tried to reopen a divorce case that was finalized 10 years ago. And now all of a sudden the doctor's got millions of dollars and now they want to reopen the divorce case. Yeah, they'd laugh you if you were in another country. But in America, hey, that's your right. No, maybe she couldn't let go. Maybe maybe the good doctor Michael from Chicago, the good surgeon, had a little bit more money than they did. We don't know. Debbie Fox is saying she reopened it on him. There you go. The great Chicago surgeons had just a little bit too much money and they wanted some of it. That makes sense. It's possible. I do want to give a shout out to my hometown, Chicago, Illinois. Go Bears. Don't touch nothing. We're on our way to the Super Bowl. Now, let's see. Is there any other questions before we end this? Well, it looks like the wind is a blowing and them clouds are moving. So I did just look at the weather channel. Today, 44. And then the bottom drops out. And we're way down. Here in a couple days, it's going to be in the low 20s. And cold again, folks. And snow on the way. So hunker down. Well, there you folks go. We will return with more information on this case. I want to thank RC for showing up. Debbie Fox. Was it her? Did she reopen it? I don't know. You're saying she reopened it. Well, someone reopened it. Why? We don't know. But then again, we don't know if that's true. But that's what's going around, the rumors. So I don't know. No. Why would you want to revisit something that was bad and finalized through the courts? If it was her, then I know what happened. Yeah, if they did it, then yeah. Yeah, it explains everything. Or the only other thing I can think of is she owed him money for something and was awarded it through the courts, but she didn't have the money at the time. So he wavered it until she had the money. He finds out she got married again to a doctor, a dentist, surgeon, and's got money. And then he reopens it. Hey, she's got money. She could pay me the money she owes me. Now that's possible. Or it's vice versa. The good doctor of Chicago was making tons of money and they wanted some of it. No? Yeah. Very possible. So let me tell you what the United States of America has become. Gluttons. Gluttons. They can't have enough. They're not happy with enough. They're not happy with one wife. They got to have 20. They're not happy with $1 million. They got to have it all. America's become gluttons and money hungry. That's all I can say. They just ain't happy with what they got. Why? I have no idea. It's called God syndrome. America has a bad problem with a disease, and it's called God syndrome. They're not happy with one. They got to have all. They're not happy with a mansion. They got to have 20 of them. No. Yeah. God syndrome. These people believe they're gods. They deserve it all. Very, very dangerous place to be. Very dangerous place to be. And Debbie Fox says, I am over her. Eat. I don't know, right? Over her. Just trying to eat, yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes every. Ooh, dang it. That is a little chilly out. I got the door open. A breeze just came through. I got my socks on. Felt it on the old feet. I got my inside slippers on. Inside, what do they call these things? Thongs or whatever. Tongs or whatever. I don't know. Sandals, whatever they call it. It's a little bit nippy out there. Dress warm. Just because it's 44, when you got a mile an hour wind, it's like 30 or something or below that. Flip flops. Yeah, I don't like to use flip flop because I'm seeing a lot of flip flopper flammies in these channels. A bunch of flip flopping flippers. The only kind of flippers that should be on anything is a dolphin. But then again, I'm seeing on the internet that the dolphins are trying to screw humans as they're swimming in the. Yeah, this whole world's gone crazy. Yeah, what kind of story is that? We have horny dolphins down in Florida trying to mate with humans that are swimming in it. Yeah, I think it's over with for this earth. I think it's over with when you go swimming and you're getting dry humped by a dolphin in the. Yeah, it's over with. I'd pretty much say something's gone cuckoo in this world. Dolphins are very sexual creatures, Miss Debbie Fox said. Yeah. Yeah, so am I, but I ain't getting laid. So I don't think these dolphins should be getting laid either. I'm going to call it how it is. Even the dolphins are getting more than me, Miss. Lord, do you see that even the dolphins are getting more than me? This is horrible. Debbie Fox says, you better hope you got swim trunks on. Yeah, I would say so, Debbie. This is something very, very horrible. First they didn't want to tell me, and I kept telling them, just tell me the truth, what is going on. The government didn't want to tell me. And then they hit me with it. They're like, are you ready? I'm like, I'm ready. And they're like, Mr. Kramer, it's very possible that your tax money has gone towards some of these women that had changes and their penises are bigger than yours. Well, I hit the roof. The F you mean their penises are bigger than mine? And that was, well, your tax. But I calmed down. And if it ain't that, it's the dolphins are getting more than me. So, yeah, I'm pretty much done. America's over. Now, I'm going to end this video. I want to thank the great Ma Debbie Fox for stopping in. I want to thank RC for stopping in. And anyone else that is viewing. And I think our laws need to change in this country. How the heck you reopen a divorce case 8 years ago? I have no idea. Murder case, I can see reopening it. A divorce case, I don't know. Something ain't right with your laws. Now, you folks have a great day. God bless. I shall return, Miss Fox. Is there anything else you want to say? Lord, I want to thank you for another day. I want to ask you to forgive us for our sins. And I also want to ask for healing across these lands. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Nothing. You're good, Debbie? Okay, we're going to end this video. God bless everyone. Have a great day. Stay warm. And we got more weather coming, folks. So keep an eye on that. Prepare for that. Let me see what Debbie said. Let me know when you find out who responded. Yeah, we'll find out who reopened it. If it's true, that might just be another rumor. Now, you folks have a great day. God bless. And I'll be back with more content.